Would you have reservations if he said, next fight I want Terence Crawford?
Well, I killed the fight. 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 Yeah.
So you wouldn't want that for Manny?
No, because I would know how it would end. I mean, not that I knew it would end in serious disability for Manny. That I wouldn't know. But as a fight, it would only end one way.
You wouldn't want to see Manny take a lot of damage? Would it pull towards your emotions, putting him in a position like that?
Forget my emotions. I wouldn't want to see him take that kind of damage because it might affect his future life.
What's good, family? So mash the like button, subscribe and lick off the bell. Damn, we got some breaking leaked news right now, and we just heard there from Bob Arum a leaked court transcript from a previous comment made, which has now been wiped from the internet, regarding Bob Arum and Terence Crawford's lawsuit. Now, one of the key parts within Terence Crawford's lawsuit is allegations that Bob Arum, number one, promised him the Pacquiao fight, and number two, not only did not deliver on the Pacquiao fight, but instead violated his fiduciary duty to Terence Crawford by, quote, killing the Pacquiao fight. Wow. And you heard there from Bob Arum confirming that. The man says to him, what's your thoughts about Terence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao? Bob Arum says, I killed that fight because I knew how down bad Manny Pacquiao would have been. Now this to me is shocking. Why? Well, the fact that we know Manny Pacquiao signed to fight Errol Spence. Albeit Manny Pacquiao was no longer working with Bob Arum, but this shows you the character of Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao ain't scared of no one. In fact, Manny Pacquiao ran Errol Spence out of the sport for 6 months. Facts. Yeah? Manny Pacquiao put the fear of God into Errol Spence. Errol Spence pulled out. In fact, Errol Spence poked himself in the eye trying to get out of that fight. So we know it's nothing to do with Pacquiao. In fact, Manny Pacquiao signing and scaring Errol Spence off into an injury, into a fake manufactured injury, shows that if Bob Arum had have presented the Terence Crawford fight, who, by the way, at the time, Terence Crawford was coming up from 140, so he was small fry in Pacquiao's mind, yeah? Terence Crawford wasn't the phenom and whatnot at 147 at this particular point in time. So a few years ago, Terence Crawford coming up, he knew at the weight. Manny Pacquiao would likely have been all over that fight. Yeah? All over that fresh meat of Terence Crawford. But instead, Bob Arum, not only, for example, it's one thing presenting the offer. It's one thing, yeah, if Bob Arum says, listen, Manny Pacquiao, Terence Crawford, you're both my clients. I have a duty to do what's best for both of you. And in doing so, to maintain that duty of care to both athletes, he should have presented the offer to both athletes. Listen, I'm neutral whilst I'm representing both. Well, you both need to understand I represent both of you. So all I can do at this point is present you both the offer for the fight, and we'll take it from there. At which point, yeah, if Manny Pacquiao had said no, guess what? Terence Crawford would have no claim on that basis. Do you understand? As long as Bob Arum presents the option for the fight, Terence Crawford couldn't have complained. Yeah? There's no law that says, oh, Bob Arum must force Manny Pacquiao to fight Terence Crawford. If Manny Pacquiao didn't want to fight, he didn't want to fight. But to hear that Bob Arum didn't even present the offer and blocked it, he killed it dead i.e. didn't even send the offer in the first place, just killed it, purposefully manipulated one of his clients, Terence Crawford. Because by killing it, that would mean Bob Arum took an active role in manipulating whatever, not sending that message, not trying to do this, not trying to do that. It's a very active word. He didn't say, well, I presented the offer, but Manny Pacquiao didn't want it. He said he killed the offer dead. he killed the old notion. He killed the fight dead. Which is shocking. Why would you do that for? Now Bob Arum says the reason he killed it dead, the reason he denied Terence Crawford the opportunity to fight Manny Pacquiao was because he was scared for Manny. But again, the fact Manny Pacquiao went in there with Thurman and Spence shows you Manny Pacquiao ain't scared of no one. We know that. I'm not being funny, but if Manny Pacquiao was prepared to fight Spence, it's no different really, is it? Crawford and Spence, everyone considers them to be a similar level. So, I'm afraid to say, people, you man heard my opinion. Initially, I was fully backing Bob Arum because I thought the lawsuit was, like he said, frivolous. But to now hear this leaked audio clip of Bob Arum saying he killed the opportunity, why would you do that for? It's not your right, and to be fair, it works both ways. Why did you deny Manny Pacquiao the potential right of beating Terence Crawford? That was a decent fight for both fighters, wasn't it? And again, the fact that we now know, years later, that Manny Pacquiao had no problem fighting Errol Spence. Think about it. If Manny Pacquiao will fight Errol Spence now, at 42 years old, I find it hard to believe he wouldn't have fought Terence Crawford 4 years ago, being 4 years younger. Can you? I don't think so. Especially given the fact that Terence Crawford is skinny. Yeah? For all we know, Manny Pacquiao would have been all over that 140-pound looking ass. So what angle is Bob coming from? Now, I'm not saying that. Does this prove that Bob Arum is racist? I don't believe so. But unfortunately, from the court's point of view, whether it's the R word or not, what we do know is it's certainly prejudicial. Yeah? It certainly is, whether it's race or not, it's irrelevant. That decision to kill a fight because of your personal whims, that can't work in a business. Business is cold, people. Yeah? And business being cold and having duties, when you manage and represent fighters and advise fighters, your duty to both of them isn't to sit there and pick winners and losers and make decisions for them. That's what's important here. Bob Arum made a decision for Pacquiao. He made a decision for Pacquiao which disadvantaged both fighters. That's not his job to pick and choose. His job is to present the options. Pacquiao, here's an option. I'm representing both of you fighters, and here's the option. Do you both want to take it? Now, again, if either fighter declines to take it, there's no harm, no foul. That's what Bob should have done. Present the offer. If Pacquiao says he's too old or he's scared to get hurt, which he never would have done, but you know what I'm saying? If he does say that, fair enough, the fight doesn't happen. And Bob Arum can say what he wants, but to hear that he got in, why? Well, from what angle? I'm sorry, but the whole angle, oh well, I knew he would get hurt. And then in fact, Bob goes on to himself to say, well, I'm not saying he would have been seriously injured. I just knew he would lose the fight. Well, Pacquiao's lost many fights in the past. What's your point then? It's confusing. I can't understand, especially when Bob was representing both fighters at the time, meaning that he would have always had the winner as well. It's not like Terence Crawford was an outside fighter. And if anything, Terence Crawford we know was the younger fighter. Why wouldn't Bob Arum want to build Terence Crawford? Historically, look at Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao's legacy was based on beating people like De La Hoya and whatnot. That's how this sport works. The young ones beat the old ones. And that's how legacies and brand value is built. Look at Floyd Mayweather. He was no one until he beat De La Hoya. Yeah? So why did Bob Arum refuse to give Terence Crawford the opportunity at least? We're not asked, no one's asking Bob Arum to guarantee him and force Pacquiao to take the fight, but why not? Why would you kill it? Oh no, I got in the way purposefully. I stopped that fight. I refused to even send an offer for that fight. Why would you be in there and be doing too much? Be way too active. Your nose didn't need to be in that business. Pacquiao's been taking hard fights his whole career. Why would you be so active in this one? Especially when it's one thing, yeah, for Bob Arum to say, well, I wanted to stop. Let's say Bob Arum was representing Manny Pacquiao when an Errol Spence offer was sent. That's one thing, isn't it? Okay, well, Errol Spence is Team PBC. I don't want Manny Pacquiao to lose to a fighter I don't have any invested interest in. I don't want Pacquiao to lose to someone outside of my own organisation. Yeah, that's one thing. But for Bob Arum to own options or own equity in Terence Crawford, to stop Terence Crawford moving up and consuming that soul, because Crawford beating Pacquiao means that he gets all that clout. Yeah? Gets all that clout and moves on. Look at people like Broner. Listen, there's been loads of people who have lost to Pacquiao recently. All of them people got the opportunity. Why would Bob? I mean, look at PBC. PBC, at the moment, have Pacquiao. Yeah? And they've been using Pacquiao against all of their fighters. So why didn't Bob do the same thing? That's how you build value. You put the old big fighter against the young big fighter. And that builds your young big fighter into the new current big name. What motive does Bob have? Again, it's not his job to sit there and play, well, I didn't want him to get hurt. That's not the point. Manny Pacquiao can make them own decisions himself, but more importantly, why weren't you following the nature of the sport? I.e., why weren't you looking to be most beneficial to your younger athletes? Everyone knows Pacquiao at the time was getting older, but that's even more incentive for Bob to be saying, well, Pacquiao's getting old anyway, why not cash out in the Crawford fight where I can then build the next generation off of Pacquiao's name, something which has happened since time began in boxing. Like I said, Pacquiao and De La Hoya, that fight was pivotal in Pacquiao's career. Imagine, for example, if someone had said to De La Hoya, well, I knew you were going to get beat up by Pacquiao, so I killed that fight. Imagine how detrimental that would have been to Pacquiao's career, for example. I just can't understand it. When you represent both fighters, why did Bob Arum not take a neutral position? Make the offer and take a step back. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. From Bob's point of view, it would have been a win-win. Because if the fight doesn't happen, fine. I've done my bit as a manager for both fighters. If it does happen, number one, I control the winner either way, which is great. That's a great position to be in. Don King really was one of the key guys who started that whole trend off. Always own the winner, yeah? So you keep the power in-house. So you always have the winner. Number two, the winner you do have has built exponential clout. Pacquiao beating Crawford would be a massive feat. It's a bit like when Pacquiao and Spencer are going to fight. If Pacquiao had beat Spence, it would have been huge. And it works both ways. So I'm sorry, it's baffling. And this is just one example of this is one example of some super duper skullduggery, and I'm sorry I can't justify it in any way or means. is seriously suspect, and it's a shame. I don't know. I mean, if I was to bet it, there's certainly some sort of, I'm not sure what kind of discrimination you'd call it, but whether it's consciously, I think it's probably more subconsciously. Subconsciously, Bob Arum was more worried about, really it's about picking favourites. Bob Arum did not consider Terence Crawford a favourite, and he executed on decisions that specifically disrespected and left Terence Crawford out of pocket. Now I'm not sure what's suable though. Is that suable? For example, when you think about the UFC, if the UFC chooses not to send an offer to someone, if the UFC chooses to kill a fight, can you sue them because of that? I don't think so. Listen, the way Dana runs that ship, if he wants to kill a fight, he kills a fight. He don't give a fuck. He don't give a fuck. Do you know what I'm saying? Now, the way I've explained it, it's not very just what happened. It's not very fair. And again, it may be downright discrimination, but I'm not sure how that works in the law, in the courts of law. End of the day, yeah, Bob Arum, Top Rank, own their contracts. Bob Arum, Top Rank, owned Terence Crawford's contract. Bob Arum, Top Rank, owned Manny Pacquiao's contract. As the owner of their contracts, if he does decide or he doesn't decide, much like Dana White, to make a fight, that's his choice. And that's the thing, if you don't like Bob Arum's matchmaking and his opportunities, you have a right to leave. That's it. Now again, where the controversy comes in is if Bob Arum guaranteed something. I'm not sure he did though. Did Bob Arum guarantee the Pacquiao fight? No, if Bob Arum guaranteed the Pacquiao fight and then said he killed it, that would be a clear breach. But why would Bob? Yeah, unless that is the case, I'm struggling to see where Terence Crawford's beef is here. And ultimately, if your career is based, and you've already heard my half conclusion. Half my conclusion is he certainly has been disrespected and been discriminated against to some extent. However, really, if your career is based off one fight against an old man, 42-year-old man, if you're throwing your toys out of your pram because you've lost one fight, it begs the question, how valuable really are you? If your whole career can be killed by not having one fight, how much do you really value yourself? Why can't you make big fights in your own right? I mean, we used the Pacquiao versus De La Hoya example. Yes, the Pacquiao versus De La Hoya fight was big, but thinking about it, if Pacquiao hadn't have had that fight, do you really think it would have made much difference to his career over the last 10 years? I don't think so. Yes, initially that was just the springboard, but in my opinion, Pacquiao would have still got to where he is now without that fight. Yes, you move up the escalator quicker. Pacquiao became much more relevant much quicker, but that's all it does. It expedites. It doesn't really change your destination. I think where Terence Crawford's mad is the fact that he ain't moved nowhere for the last 5 years, and he's big mad about that, and he's trying to take out on someone. Rather than blame himself, or rather than look internally, it's a lot easier to blame other people and say things like, well, look what you didn't do for me 4 years ago. That's why I can't sell no tickets. Terence Crawford's essentially saying, the reason I can't sell no tickets is because of what Bob Arum did 4 years ago. I just think that's weak myself. And I think really, why hasn't Terence Crawford filed this lawsuit when it was relevant 4 years ago? Yeah, the minute Bob Arum killed this fight is when Terence Crawford should have launched this lawsuit. I'm not sure what is waited for. I'm really not. But again, I believe the reason it's been launched now is because he's feeling down bad. He's feeling a bit worthless and thinking, damn, I need some free coins. Let me go and see if I can put it on Bob. But legally speaking, I think he's going to end up down bad some more, truth be known. I don't think there's a legal case from what I understand. But this leaked audio is certainly interesting and does give some weight towards discrimination. Is it legally binding discrimination? I wouldn't bet on it, that's for sure.